Have you ever felt that despite having access to all the knowledge in the world, it's still hard to truly learn something? We live in the information age where everything is just a click away. Yet, ironically, we've never felt so overwhelmed, distracted, and unable to focus. How is it possible that we have more access to knowledge than any other generation, but at the same time, we seem to absorb less? Ancient philosophers pursued knowledge as a way to understand existence. Today, we're surrounded by data, but are we truly learning? Sociologist Zygmunt Bauman described liquid modernity, a world where everything changes too fast for us to deeply grasp. A 2019 Stanford University study found that information overload leads to cognitive paralysis, making it harder to turn data into meaningful learning. From an early age, we're taught that learning is just about absorbing and repeating information. But what if that's wrong? What if the problem isn't a lack of information, but the way we try to learn? In this video, we'll explore how history's greatest minds developed unique ways of acquiring knowledge, and more importantly, how you can apply their methods today. But first, we need to uncover a mistake that almost everyone makes when it comes to learning. From childhood, we're asked, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" As if we must choose a single path, a fixed identity. But does extreme specialization really make us smarter? During the Renaissance, polymaths were encouraged to explore multiple fields. Today, society pushes us towards specialization, and any deviation is seen as a waste of time. The problem is that this model fragments our way of thinking. Neuroscientist Ellen Bialystok discovered that learning diverse disciplines strengthens neural connections and delays diseases like Alzheimer's. Yet we still believe that mastering one field is enough to understand the world. This limits our ability to innovate and connect ideas that seem unrelated. There's also a psychological phenomenon reinforcing this illusion: the Dunning-Kruger effect. People with little knowledge in a field tend to overestimate their competence, while true experts recognize their limitations. This creates a dilemma. The deeper we go into one area, the more we risk ignoring how it connects to others. But if specialization can be a trap, how do we balance it with the pursuit of knowledge? Before answering that, we need to discuss an even bigger challenge: time. Do we really not have enough time to learn, or are we simply not using it correctly? Many people say they don't learn new things because they don't have time. But is that really true? Stoic philosopher Seneca once said, "It's not that we have little time, but that we waste a great deal of it." The issue has never been a lack of time, it's how we use it. Small habits accumulated over time can transform anyone into a modern polymath. James Clear, author of Atomic Habits, explains the 1% rule. Improving just 1% a day results in being 37 times better in 1 year. It seems insignificant at first, but progress compounds exponentially. The problem is that most people expect immediate results. When they don't see rapid improvement, they get frustrated and quit before making real progress. Science confirms this. A 2017 Harvard study found that spaced-out reviews increase retention by 50%. The Pomodoro technique, which breaks study sessions into short, focused cycles, enhances productivity and reduces mental fatigue. The key isn't if we have time to learn, but how we organize that time. And if we still struggle to retain knowledge, maybe the problem isn't time management, but how our brain processes information. After all, why do we forget things so quickly? And what can we do to ensure we retain what we learn? We were taught to think in a linear way, separating fields of knowledge into isolated blocks. But reality is far more interconnected. The greatest minds in history knew that innovation happens when different disciplines merge. Leonardo da Vinci blended art, anatomy, and engineering. Steve Jobs studied calligraphy, which later influenced Apple's sleek digital design. When we stop viewing knowledge as separate compartments, we unlock new ways to create. Science backs this up. Associative thinking activates the hippocampus, the brain region responsible for creativity. Studies show that learning across multiple disciplines strengthens problem-solving abilities by creating diverse neural pathways. The more varied your knowledge sources, the better your brain becomes at identifying patterns that others overlook. Modern society pushes extreme specialization, but true innovators thrive by bridging multiple fields. Richard Feynman, one of the greatest physicists of the 20th century, used music and drawings to teach quantum mechanics in ways that made it easier to grasp. Nikola Tesla combined principles of electricity, magnetism, and mechanics to create inventions that seemed like science fiction at the time. If they had never explored beyond their main disciplines, their contributions might have never existed. But simply connecting knowledge isn't enough if our brain forgets most of what we learn in just a few days. That leads to one of the biggest obstacles in learning: memory. Why does our brain erase information so quickly, and how can we fight against it? How many times have you studied something, felt confident, and then forgotten almost everything just days later? This doesn't happen because of a lack of intelligence. It happens because the brain is designed to discard information that isn't reinforced. In 1885, psychologist Hermann Ebbinghaus discovered the forgetting curve. Without review, we lose about 70% of what we learn in just 24 hours. But that doesn't mean we're doomed to forget. Science has uncovered techniques to counteract this natural process. Spaced repetition, for example, strengthens long-term memory by reactivating information at strategic intervals. Instead of cramming all at once and forgetting, reviewing small chunks over time locks knowledge into the brain permanently. Another powerful technique is active recall. Instead of passively rereading material, try remembering it without looking. Ask yourself questions, summarize key points from memory, or explain concepts to someone else. The physicist Richard Feynman mastered this technique, saying, "If you can't explain something in simple terms, you don't truly understand it." The real issue isn't just memory, it's the environment around us. We live in the digital age, where constant notifications and social media compete for our attention. So this raises a bigger question. Is technology helping us learn, or is it making us more distracted than ever? Never in history have we had such easy access to knowledge. With just a few clicks, we can learn anything. But if that's true, why do so many people feel like they're absorbing nothing? The problem isn't technology itself, it's how we use it. The same tool that can accelerate learning can also turn us into passive consumers of endless information. Studies show that our attention span is shrinking. A Microsoft study found that the average focus time dropped from 12 seconds in 2000 to just 8 seconds in 2021. Additionally, researchers from the University of California discovered that just 3 seconds of checking your phone can reduce cognitive performance by 50%. Notifications, social media, and infinite scrolling create an environment where deep learning becomes almost impossible. But technology can also work in our favor. Smart learning apps, gamification, and digital filters help us stay focused. The key is to create a strategic digital environment. Turn off unnecessary notifications, schedule study time, and use tech as a tool rather than a distraction. Yet even with all these solutions, one major problem remains: the illusion of motivation. Many people believe they need to feel like learning in order to be consistent. But if we rely on motivation, we'll always be at the mercy of how we feel. The real secret to mastering any skill isn't motivation, it's building systems that make learning automatic. How many times have you said, "I'll start learning something new when I feel motivated"? This is one of the biggest mistakes when it comes to learning. Motivation is unreliable. If you depend on it to take action, you'll never be consistent. Real progress doesn't come from momentary inspiration. It comes from building systems that eliminate the need for willpower. In The Power of Habit, author Charles Duhigg explains how repetition and discipline create automatic learning cycles. This is the key difference between those who master a skill and those who simply dream about it. The 1% rule, popularized by James Clear, reinforces this. If you improve by just 1% every day in 1 year, you'll be 37 times better. Progress doesn't happen all at once. It builds up through small daily efforts. The secret is consistency. A system means setting clear routines, regardless of motivation. Instead of a vague goal like, I want to learn a language, create a structured system. I will study for 20 minutes every morning. When learning becomes a habit, you no longer need to feel inspired to take action. Now let's return to our original question. If knowledge is available to everyone, what truly separates those who master multiple fields from those who never make progress? The answer isn't intelligence, it's how they structure their learning. Remember the question we asked at the beginning. If we have more access to knowledge than ever before, why does it feel like we're learning less? The answer is simple. Information without application doesn't lead to real learning. True polymaths don't just consume knowledge, they know how to connect and apply it. What makes these people different isn't natural talent or superior intelligence. Their real advantage is how they structure their learning. They don't learn because they have to, but because they're curious. They don't rely on motivation, they build systems. And most importantly, they don't see knowledge as isolated subjects, but as an interconnected web of ideas that fuels creativity and innovation. You can either keep consuming information passively or start turning knowledge into something useful. The choice is yours. Learning isn't reserved for a few lucky geniuses. It's available to anyone willing to embrace it as a continuous process. The only question left is, will you keep waiting for the perfect moment, or will you take the first step today? To summarize, learning isn't about talent, but consistency. Small improvements every day create extraordinary results over time. Technology can be your greatest ally or your biggest distraction. It all depends on how you use it. The world has always favored those who think beyond a single specialization. Now I want to hear from you. What's one skill you've always wanted to learn but never took the first step? Drop a comment below and inspire others. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications. And if you want to go even deeper, there's a video on the screen right now that could change the way you see learning. See you there.